Okay, so we've all already been up, probably most of us, for a few hours at least. And so many thoughts have run through the mind. And some of us have had to travel to get to where we are right now. So physical activity as well. So what this tends to do, since we are dominated by our five senses, largely, and of course the mental sense is always there, the sixth one, but we're dominated by eye, ear, nose, tongue, touch, consciousness. For example, I've already had an unpardonable number of cups of tea this morning. So that is the not only the mental sensation, the image in the mind, but that was followed by searching for and finding the ingredients, the family house of a friend, and then the end result was the sensation, yeah, on the tongue, and the sense of satisfaction in the mind, as at the same time I was watching the rather remarkably clear blue sky in Gaya town this morning. But the point I'm making is we've all had a lot of sensory input this morning. Some of it pleasant, maybe some unpleasant, some neutral. And what it does is it creates a lot of movement, potentially a lot of movement in the mind. So here it's as though we've had a lot of, we've been trying to find on a very sensitive radio, a particular station, right? An old-fashioned radio, trying to find a station, and there's been all this static and all kinds of different stations coming in with all kinds of strange accents and languages we don't understand. And finally, we come now to a particular calm station, the station we want to get to. We're just focusing on that, and we are letting go of the perpetual need to be moving the mind and the senses towards something. We're just letting go of that urge and bringing the mind home. Bringing the mind home means what? Settling and just paying attention to what's happening in the present moment in the body. Present moment, again, it's not just a cliche. And let's forget the fact that we cannot actually find an exact, absolute present moment. That may be true philosophically, but what I'm saying is we don't need to dwell in the past right now or jump ahead to the future. Many things may be planned for today for you, or you're hoping that certain things will happen today, but can we let go of that for now and just be aware of the present moment in our body and being aware of what is happening in what we call the mind, the stream of awareness, moments of awareness. When we slow down, when we stop fidgeting with our body and sit upright, relaxed, in the posture that I think we're all familiar with, then there could be a sense of, okay, that's enough. Let's just pay attention to this breathing in and breathing out, which may have been neglected since morning. We forgot that we were still alive and that we hadn't died during the night. which many people will have. Many people would have died last night in this world, apart from the countless animals, insects, and other beings. But we're still alive due to this breath, which you and I are experiencing right now. Can you feel that breath in the body? Can one feel the sensation in the chest or the abdomen as we perhaps take a few deep breaths initially to make a connection with this mysterious or not so mysterious breath? And let there be a sense of, perhaps this sense of, although it's early in the day or later in the day in Australia, but for most of it, it's early in the day, but we can still imagine what it's like briefly to be somebody who's been quite busy and active for the last few minutes or hours. Finally, just coming to rest. And there's a sigh of relief, there's a sense of relief and relaxation as you realize that you can just stop bothering about anything and stop running around physically and even mentally, and just being with the breath. What a relief. A sense of letting go as we breathe out. Let there be a softness in the muscles of the face, around the eyes, around the mouth, around the jaw. And bring to mind now, as part of the motivation, the people who are not able or wanting to or don't have the right circumstances right now to be able to slow down and pay attention like we are able to right now. Most people are like that. Most people, of whatever economic or class background or race, are running around in some way being busy, trying to survive or trying to achieve something, trying to stay warm, trying to stay out of danger. If they're in the middle of this awful bloodbath in a town called Bakhmut in Ukraine, then they're just trying to survive, avoid being shot, bombed. In a kind of a hellhole where there are some very brave people are trying to get the children out of the center of the hostilities. But whatever it is, whatever particular kind of turmoil beings find themselves in, there's certainly a lack of peace. There's a lack of being at ease, a lack of basic happiness, contentment, a sense of health, basic health, sanity. That's what most people are experiencing right now. Most beings in the universe, not just on this tiny little dot in space. Hmm. Let me read something. It's not only part of the motivation, but it will also be something that we forms the background to what we are going to be looking at today. I'll read it, and then we will have our 7-8 minute silence where we can just be with the breath, and whatever else comes up, that could be a sense of sadness or renunciation, given the situation that we're in, beings are in. That can be a very wholesome state of mind if we don't relate with it in the wrong way. Sadness, renunciation of the causes of suffering. It's a very powerful and wonderful thing. And maybe not easy to generate for long. A few seconds, and then it may be gone. Anyway, let me read this. A great deal of chaos in the world occurs because people don't appreciate themselves. Having never developed sympathy or gentleness towards themselves, they can't experience harmony or peace within themselves, and therefore what they project onto others is also inharmonious and confused. Instead of appreciating our lives, we often take our existence for granted, or we find it depressing and burdensome. People even threaten to commit suicide because they feel they aren't getting what they think they deserve out of life. They may even blackmail others with the threat of suicide, saying that they'll kill themselves if certain things don't change. Certainly, we should take our lives seriously, but that doesn't mean driving ourselves to the brink of disaster by complaining about our problems or holding a grudge against the world. We have to accept personal responsibility for uplifting our lives. When you don't punish or condemn yourself, when you relax more and appreciate your body and mind, you begin to contact the fundamental notion of basic goodness in yourself. So it's extremely important to be willing to open yourself to yourself. Developing tenderness towards yourself allows you to see both your problems and your potential accurately. You don't feel you have to ignore your problems or exaggerate your potential. So that kind of gentleness towards yourself, appreciation of yourself, is very necessary. It provides the ground for helping yourself and others. So let's sit quietly for a while together. A sense of stillness, ease, but also attentively, and with a sense of calm, clarity, and the kindness which may arise naturally through slowing down, paying attention, and not pushing ourselves. You can observe the breath or the body, sensations, whatever is useful for you, and be aware when thoughts hijack us, gently aware of that, letting them go, coming back to the breath, coming back to the body. A sense of relaxing, letting go with the out breath. Occasionally check that the body is relaxed, upright, head tilted slightly downwards so as to minimize tension in the neck and head. Let go of any tension, holding in the jaw, around the eyes. Let there be a softness, like a sort of inner smile emerging. Which translates into soft features in the face. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So let's investigate the Maitri Brahma Vihar further. There's a lot more we can reflect on, as you'll find out today, I hope. Let's just remember what that first line in the prayer says. We'll see how much that contains. So it says, how wonderful it would be if all beings were to experience happiness and the causes of happiness. Very simple phrase, very easy to understand, those words. The words, but of course the meaning, if we go to the meaning and the deeper meaning and use more of a wisdom or investigative consciousness, as we are advised to, and also remembering Jeffrey Hopkins' advice that when he said that the meditator who can use their imagination is going to be, that's a good meditator, someone who knows how to use their imagination. Of course, someone who also knows how to plumb their own experience, but imagination too. So, meaning something that comes up in the mind as a mental image. Because we may remember something from our experience, but the experience is not happening right now, right? It's an image in the mind. But those images can be worked with, played with in a most creative and meaningful way. And of course, they can also be used in a very meaningless and destructive way. So, but here we're going to use them constructively. So, causes, happiness and the causes of happiness. And we are looking first at ourselves, aren't we? So, how many causes of happiness do we reckon we have created for ourselves today, so far? And of course, there are the causes like eating, drinking, adjusting our posture when it was getting slightly uncomfortable, stretching and feeling the comfort and the slight pleasure that may come from stretching when you've been in a certain posture or sitting for a while and you stretch, or when you stretch the first time in the morning. Upon waking, you may have stretched before getting out of bed. There's a certain pleasant sensation, is there not, connected with those actions? So there is that, but what else? What else? Would we, if someone were to ask us, how are you taking care of your health? Do you have a basic peace and contentment in mind? Are you receiving and giving love and affection to others? Are you receiving from others and are you giving to others? Kindness, love, affection? These are questions we can ask ourselves. You know, what we are ingesting, what we're putting in our mouths, is it good for our health? What we're thinking, what we're doing, is it conducive to contentment and peace? Have we had any loving thoughts towards others so far today, in the sense of affectionate or wishing them well, or just often, of course, this works on a non-verbal level. We're not saying we have to be churning these phrases around in our head, but do we have a basic affection and warmth towards others? Excuse me, or are we basically experiencing others with a sense of not quite annoyance, but somehow that they're in our space, you know, that we have a certain space or territory and they're entering it or whatever. Often we feel like that, you know, or we feel some subtle discomfort towards people or certain animals. So what's been the experience so far today, last few days? So have we, the other thing, of course, which people know, the teachings make so much about solitude and so forth, solitude and silence. Why? We may think that we can better find ourselves and, you know, bring happiness to ourselves through always interacting with others on a verbal level, you know, through conversation. Is that true? Have we not had experiences of being alone where it's a very rich kind of situation, in the sense we don't need anyone around at that moment? It's not that we don't want anyone, but we're perfectly happy without anybody being there. There's plenty to appreciate, especially if we're, of course, in places that are easy to appreciate for us. nature or the marketplace, whatever. Wherever we can feel that appreciation, warmth, or simply with our own body and breath. Or a reflection. For example, we may be reflecting on death and impermanence. But we're doing that because we know it can be so beneficial for us, for our life. Or at least we have trust in people whom we respect when they say that that is a very good thing to contemplate on. So although it may be a little painful to reflect on it, we know we have some trust that it's going to be beneficial. So that's an act of kindness, is it not, towards oneself? So how much in our lives so far have we relied on our own resources, being alone for some time, and how much are we otherwise perpetually needing to rely on other people for everything, you know, especially for some kind of appreciation, approval, comfort. Not that these things are bad, but how much are we depending on outside factors, and how much are we able to create causes of happiness within ourselves? Because as you know, modern culture, modern economics is based on creating a sense of dissatisfaction within people so that they basically consume more. So we begin to identify consumption with looking after oneself, with being kind to oneself, consuming, buying. And if we don't have money, then we feel impoverished. So how much is that true for us? We have to be very honest. How much do we get our sense of satisfaction through purchasing? And is that really kindness? Check. And, and if we have some understanding that by really probing and understanding the nature of the mind, then that is going to be a very, very key realization. Understanding how the mind works is going to be key in our happiness or our suffering. Then we have to check, is that best found in solitude, basically, on one's own, or through conversation with others, perpetual conversation and busy interaction with the world? Of course, anything can yield understanding, whether it's solitude or interaction with others. But what have we relied upon, and how useful is it? And why do all of the teachers, all of the holy beings from Shakyamuni onwards, why do they say that the deepest understanding will only come through quiet reflection and meditation on one's own, with one's own mind. Why do they say that? Do we have any idea about that? And if not, might it be worth investigating this? If so many so-called great beings have advised this, might it be something useful? Hmm. Let me read another passage, which I hope brings out something very, very important. Before I do that, I want to remind us of the so-called secular mantra, which we talked a lot about a few years ago, which was from the introduction to a book of essays by a very wonderful American farmer and poet, Wendell Berry. So in the introduction to these essays by somebody else, he says that the work of Wendell Berry can be encapsulated in the following words, which to me is like a kind of a very useful, wonderful, like a mantra really, that one needs to repeat again and again. Sorry, which I need to repeat again and again to remind myself. And it goes like this. It's slow down, pay attention, do good work, love your neighbor, love your place, stay in your place, settle for less, enjoy it more. So I understand love your place, stay in your place to be interpretable in different ways. It can refer to a location. Of course, for this person, Wendell Berry, that's very important because he went back to his spoiled ancestral land and decided he was going to rejuvenate it and make it healthy again using traditional methods. But it could also refer to one's own place, or who we are, our body and mind. That's our basic place, is it not? Is there more basic a place than that? A place that we're never going to be separate from in this life. This body, this mind. Yeah. Stay in your place, love your place. Yeah. Settle for less, enjoy it more. Well, that's, again, the words are self-evident, but maybe that's a very amazing, deep advice for a world that is plagued by overconsumption and use of resources as though we had, 3 or 4 planets at our disposal rather than just one. So the advice to settle for less and enjoy it more is something extraordinary, actually. If only we could live by that. If only I could live by that. Anyway, that's the kind of background mantra, which I find useful, and you might as well. And it's in the introduction to a wonderful book called The World Ending Fire. The World Ending Fire by Wendell Berry. Okay, so this quotation is from somewhere else by a Lama who was one of the first Lamas really to bring out Dharma books in the West. You know, before we had the glut of books that came in the late 70s, 80s and onwards. In those days, there weren't that many books from, Tibetan Lamas, from the Tibetan tradition. Anyway, here, this great Lama Tharthang Tulku, who started the wonderful Nyingma great prayer festivals in Bodh Gaya and distributed millions of Dharma books to participants. It is Dharma Publishing, from the Dharma Publishing Organization, Press. This is what he has to say in one of his, actually one of his slightly later books, because he started writing in, I think 1970 or 71, which is quite early by Tibetan Buddhist book standards in the West. So this one is 1998. And it's called Teachings from the Heart. Teachings from the Heart. Tharthang Tulku. Anyway, I'll post that later. Listen to what he says about what can come about if we were to slow down and pay attention at a deeper level. Wouldn't happen in just 10 minutes of breath awareness, but when we get used to it, he's saying, and when we really begin to settle down and get into the habit of really listening to ourselves. This is from a chapter called Listening to Ourselves, not listening to others right now, but listening to ourselves. Because remember, we're going to make friends with ourselves first. So if we're going to make friends with ourselves, we'd better listen to ourselves, right? To what's happening in this body and mind. So this is what he says halfway through this very short chapter. As you reach this deep level of awareness, a sense arises that you can open yourself and let things be. That you have neither to go outside to the company of others, nor withdraw to a lonely inner world. Now, mind becomes very interesting. Although mind may have appeared one-dimensional, now you find it's many-faceted and beautiful, like a diamond. Awareness is active, responsive, present in every moment, attentive to every experience. This awareness is a waking up, an experience that leaves no doubt about what waking up means. And as this experience broadens, it naturally carries into daily life. Your particular difficulties and emotional characteristics begin to open and yield to a growing sense of confidence and enjoyment. Later he says, we are content because we've discovered a love and responsibility that foster a caring interaction between our senses and feelings. And this ability to care for ourselves extends beyond learned mechanical behavior. thoughts become gentle, senses smooth, feelings respond with a genuine, loving quality. Our understanding gives us greater inner strength, and we become our own best friend and counselor. No matter what others say, no matter what our external circumstances, a purity of mind is present. So it's better to know the mind fully in this way than to know good friends. Within the mind's intimacy lies the most interesting contact that we can make. The mind has a dynamic principle beyond our ability to imagine. A new celebration that may be called the path, or perhaps new awareness. When this dynamic principle has been stimulated, we can simply say, I have a path, and know that we mean it. This is profound stuff. Stuff, it's not stuff. This is profound gems from someone whom I believe has experienced it and practiced it and shared his experience of the world and shared his love for others through this extraordinary organization and printing, publishing, which has carried the words of the Buddha and commentators to hundreds of thousands of practitioners in the last 50 years. So something extraordinary. Of course, lamas like this, I think, have true understanding and trust and experience of the power and the wisdom of the Buddha. And so they know the benefits of Buddha's words, of publishing and distributing the Buddha's words and the words of the great commentators and masters of the past. Anyway, so the point here is to mention that intimacy with our own mind and the harmony and the gentleness that can occur when that is being engaged in skillfully. So that we move away from one extreme, which we mentioned before, which caused this witty person to say that, my mind is like a bad neighborhood. I don't like to go there alone. So from that, we can create a situation where we are just so much contented and in harmony within our own mind. And then naturally that's going to extend outwards towards others. Naturally, it happens. We have experience of that, all of us, I'm sure. Times when we are very relaxed, open, friendly. Things happen at that time which don't happen when we feel closed and upset and depressed and have a grudge against the world. Or don't even go out of the door of our house, don't even leave our bed because we feel so down or so negative. So we all have some experience of opening, I'm sure. And that's very wonderful. It's our birthright. It's not something alien. It doesn't come from outer space. It comes from inner space. From the Buddha nature, which has this attributes, of tenderness, warmth, wisdom, intelligence, and spaciousness. Open, spaciousness, these wonderful qualities. That's our birthright. from before our birth, our beginningless birthright, beginningless inner so-called, I was going to say credential, but what a dreadful word. Inner, richness, richness. So what could be more profound than that, really, than to discover our inner richness? And then that's kind of an endless reservoir of potential, of energy, which we share actually with the universe. Obviously, that can radiate towards others continuously without any sense of depletion. When this I, me, mine begins to, fade and become less important, when we don't feel we have to protect an identity which we've been trying to protect since beginning this time, actually protect something that never existed in the first place, a phantom, a hallucination. There are these wonderful, well, not wonderful, there are these interesting things you find on YouTube, like 50 best quotations on this or that, or, any topic, and from Western philosophers or Chinese philosophers, or from Mark Twain, from anybody. And some of them are great. So I was looking through some of these the other day, and with a view to finding some material for today's session. Excuse me. And there's just too many. Freud is said to have said that history is just new people making the old mistakes. Now, that applies to us. It's like the Kabir of today isn't the Kabir of yesterday. We're still making the old mistakes, though. So my history is just my, 50, 60, whatever year old self, just making the same mistakes that the 30, 40, 45-year-old self made. They're different variations. So can we become new people not making the same old mistakes through developing awareness, more kindness towards ourselves, realizing that these mistakes, what we're calling here mistakes, is a kind of, if we keep on perpetuating them, not only is it a kind of stupidity, but it's also a kind of violence against ourselves. Why do we do it? Habitual patterns, the arrogance of ego keep this dreadful trip going, this trip of samsara. Arrogance connected with the ego, and the habitual patterns, karma, the way we react to things. Another quote, this time from an American poet, whom I hope some of you have heard of or I get to read, Charles Bukowski, whose autobiography is one of the few books that brought me to tears. I think it was called Ham on Rye, something like that. Anyway, Bukowski was often called the poet of the underground, American poet. He apparently said, love needs too much help. Hate takes care of itself. In other words, hate is very easy to engender for most people. We can easily arouse hate or aversion. Love needs too much help. I guess he means some kind of genuine love. Love needs a lot of help. Initially, I guess, from whatever. Why do we spend so much time on this, These so-called Dharma students. The love needs a lot of help. Hatred, you don't need to come to a Zoom class on that, We don't need to do Zoom on how to develop aversion annoyance, anger at people. I haven't heard of anyone who's really come to me or anyone and said, I need instructions on how to develop more anger. It's kind of seems easier right now. But we shouldn't think that's our basic nature. That's another mistake. And then think, oh, well, then anger must be the basic, default position. No, Buddha nature is the basic state. But due to various causes, conditions, and the so-called also the degenerate time, many factors, it is easier to generate these unwholesome emotions for most people right now. Envy. Think how easy it is to generate envy. If you're not an envious person, fantastic. Rejoice if you're not envious. But if you're someone who compares yourself and gets upset when even your best friend does very well, upset meaning a little bit uneasy, wishing it was you who got the accolade or was so intelligent or said the right answer, whatever, then we need to check how that is not being kind to ourselves. Envy, anger, attachment, pride, miserliness, all the rest of it, deluded doubt, where we simply cannot bring ourselves to make up our mind about anything positive. That's what we mean by deluded doubt. A little bit of doubt is good, but doubt can become deluded. So then we need to stop and think, hey, come on. I can be kinder to myself. Another thing I thought of, which, when I stub my toe or against something or hurt myself, my initial reaction always used to be to curse myself for being stupid. Is that helpful? If your child, if you're a mother or father or your friend were to hurt themselves, would you curse them? Would you shout at, would you say, you idiot? You damn fool for doing that? I don't think so. Why did I do that to myself? I don't do it so much now. Why do we curse ourselves when we hurt ourselves? Is that kind, So little things like that we can pick up in our daily life and check whether we are developing immeasurable loving kindness. Because if we think we're developing it towards all sentient beings, but being unkind to ourselves, then I think you need a rethink. Because we are also sentient beings, Cannot exclude ourselves, can we? Okay, the last thing I want to quote, then we'll have discussion. Too much material could give us immeasurable indigestion. Quote from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I think I quoted it recently, but it's okay. Good things we need to do again and again, like brushing our teeth and drinking tea in the morning. Joking there. We think that to love ourselves, to take care of ourselves, might mean to kind of neglect others. And what we've said so far today also might make us think that way. Oh, we're being asked to be quiet and on our own and look at our own mind, develop intimacy with ourselves. That's the way to be happy. Well, certainly that's part of it. Very important. But let's look at another angle, which is also coming from, of course, the Mahayana tradition, and which applies a very, I think, powerful and basic kind of logic, which is that when we're not worrying about ourselves all the time and whether I'm happy or not, and when we're actually focused on others and what they need, then automatic relaxation in our own mind. We're not obsessed with this tight feeling of suffocation when we're thinking about ourselves or just our near and dear ones all the time. Here's a short quote from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, which, if true, wow, it's mind-blowing. If what Rinpoche is saying here is true, then it's amazing. It's like a recipe for pretty much continuously happy, joyful life. This is what he said, and it applies to India now as well. In the West, millions of people suffer from depression, but if you dedicate your life in the morning to numberless sentient beings, then there's unbelievable joy and happiness the whole day. Cherishing the I opens the door to all suffering, while cherishing others opens the door to all happiness. When you live your life every day for others, the door to depression, relationship problems, and all these things is closed. And instead, there's incredible joy and excitement. With this kind of bodhisattva attitude, you become wish-fulfilling for others. All sentient beings have been wish-fulfilling and kind to you since beginningless rebirths, and now you can become wish-fulfilling for them. From this, all your wishes for happiness are fulfilled. Even your wish to achieve liberation and enlightenment, and to benefit others by causing them happiness in this life. In this life, future life, liberation and enlightenment. You can become the cause of all of this for others. And this is how to overcome all problems. So if this is true, this is unbelievable. And, there's nothing more precious than this advice. Is there? Nothing. Nothing you can find on eBay or online, offline, compares with this. If it's true. If it's not true, then that's sad, isn't it? Then these lamas are deceiving us. The teachings on bodhicitta are pie in the sky, as we say. A dream by lamas who have too much spare time on their hands. Or maybe the Buddha was totally deluded and he has no idea, or he was in some kind of bubble of his own. I don't know, maybe he had magic mushrooms on his way to the Bodhi tree. We can think whatever. There are plenty of magic mushrooms around, I'm sure. Anyway, so I've spoken enough, more than enough, much more than enough, I'm sorry. But I hope it gives us some food for thought. So the book I was reading from, and it's hard to get hold of, it's probably out of print, Teachings from the Heart, Tarthang Tulku. Teachings from the Heart, Tarthang Tulku. He wrote a beautiful book called Healing the Mind and Gesture of Balance. Some of his early books, A Gesture of Balance. It was one of the really early ones that came out in 1970, 71. But as he's always reminding us, books are one thing, but we have to go beyond just the books and put it into effect. But I do find his language and his approach incredibly inspiring. And I hadn't been looking at his books for 20, 25 years. So it was nice to come back to them. Some great books in the library here, Root Institute. Yeah. Which is just above where I'm sitting, is our library. The early directors made sure to have a wonderful library. It's underutilized, so people should come and use our library. Yeah. Okay, let's have some discussion. Yeah. The passage I just shared, well, which one was that, I wonder? Which passage? Which passage, Ajirji? The latest one. Hold on, let me allow you all to unmute yourselves. Which passage do you mean, sir? Yeah, you can unmute yourselves now. Kaun sa passage, Ajirji?
This is Kabir by Tarthang Tulku.
Ah, yes, yes. I will share it then. I'll infringe their copyright and take a photo and put it on WhatsApp.
Mhm.
And
I
see-
think you should sit there in the root and give the teachings only from there, because the session from there seems to be carrying the wisdom and the blessing of Buddha. It was so profound today's session. Really,
actually,
it's not, huh?
the
Really.
blessing of Gaia and tea, Gaia tea, and Gaia sweets.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
they carry an enormous blessing. I think the Buddha blessed everything that was going to come out of Gaia,
I
except
see.
sometimes the garbage. Maybe the garbage not so blessed, but definitely the sweets and the tea. Yeah.
Really
then,
good.
Good. I'm glad it was useful. I
No,
felt
no,
it.
no, really useful. I mean, this is my personal take. I think probably one of the best sessions from Kabirji till now.
Well, I suppose my head should swell with pride. Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah. Very good. This is due to the power of these great beings, really. Tarthang Tulku, when I read his stuff, I think, how come nobody, so few people talk about his works now? I mean, I've met both of his daughters. They're doing amazing work. One is doing the Tripitaka chanting and organizing that all over the place. Another daughter is in Sarnath at the Nyingma Institute in Sarnath, doing great work there. And the Lama himself, I once met the stupa in Bodh Gaya. It was great. He was just sitting there in the early days. I went in, he was just sitting there near the entrance. And he said something like, it just struck me, it's just the right thing for him to say and for me to hear at that point. He said something like, it's all a mess, isn't it? The whole world is a mess or something like that. Or it's all, it's like it's all up shit creek, something like that, but not in such horrible language. And it was really powerful what he said. He was just sitting there relaxed. He seemed a very, very relaxed guy, very relaxed Lama. When you read his biography or autobiography, he got so many amazing teachings from a young age in Tibet, from great lamas, from the great, great lamas, of his tradition, especially from the Nyingma tradition. Really, he had amazing teachers and then amazing courage to do what he did in America. We think of Trungpa, we think of Lama Yeshe, of course, but Tarthang Tulku was there even before Trungpa Rinpoche, and starting to do that work. But was, of course, eclipsed by maybe Trungpa Rinpoche's persona. And of course, Trungpa is fantastic, great in his own way, amazing. The first quote was from him when I mentioned, most people in the world don't appreciate themselves. That was from Trungpa, from Shambhala, Sacred Path of the Warrior, another favorite book, Shambhala, Sacred Path of the Warrior. Yeah. From the chapter 2, Discovering Basic Goodness. Anyway, good. What else, folks?
Kabirji.
Jay.
Yeah, I think Tarthang Tulku's the book on the meditation is also really very good. Like Om Hum, how to do with the breathing. There's a book which is called the Meditation and Relaxation.
Achha.
I really found it very good, very good.
Right. Yeah, he taught a lot on those things. Yeah.
Kabirji, I'm Jagrati here from the Delhi Center.
Hi there. Yeah.
Yes. No, it was a brilliant session, extremely thought-provoking and intellectually very stimulating. So thank you.
Only
Yes.
intellectually? Only intellectually? I wanted it to go deeper than intellectually.
Emotionally.
My own good. I hope it goes deeper than intellectually.
Yeah, and deep resonance with what I am also going through in my life currently, when you talk about, consumption and, sort of becoming the source of instant joy and happiness.
Mm.
And I think I have sort of taken refuge in that in the past 3-4 months and been completely reckless about it. Then something else that you said. Yes. My credit card bill today is, 4 times my monthly salary. So equivalent of 4 months of salary. Yeah. So, and then something you said about, seeking reassurance from people around you.
Yes.
Instead of within yourself. So again, I found myself that I wanted to sort of catch hold of everyone around me and talk about my personal problems. And that is something that came up with at a therapy session. And my therapist was like, "Are you doing that a lot?" I said, "Yes, practically with everyone." Yeah. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "I think I am seeking validation." Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. And my father, who's extremely spiritual too, has been saying, "Oh, you're spending a lot of money. I know what you're doing. I know you're seeking like instant pleasure, instant joy, or instant distraction, but you need to explore deeper and please meditate, please meditate, please meditate."
And I think, thank you very much. I think also for those of us who have any kind of inclination towards nature, just slow strolling and going out and observing nature, trees, sky, flowers, it's extraordinary. It is incredibly nourishing. I think even if you're kind of up to now have been a corporate slave or whatever, it can be incredibly opening and relaxing and nourishing to be out amongst nature. And of course, mountains and oceans have always been sources of inspiration to people, but just your local park or just, a nice plant or something you have in your home, to occasionally observe those things. And as Trungpa says, don't, really look, he says. Don't just see, but look, just appreciate. And there's so much there. There's so much. And in that sense, we can get validation, if you like, from that. We don't need it from other people all the time. And then in the end, I guess we don't even need it from nature. We find everything we need inside. But temporarily, if people are getting on your nerves, or if you're getting on people's nerves, go out. And trees will never, upset you unless it's a coconut tree and you're there at the wrong time. It falls on your head. But basically, trees are going to nurture you, and they're amazing. We have such amazing trees in India. People, Bargad, Neem, so many, Pakar, so many amazing kind of trees. Mango trees right now are in blossom. I don't know, in Delhi, I don't know where you find the nearest mango tree, but there are so many in blossom here in Bodh Gaya. So there's the sight and also the scent of the mango blossom. Amazing. Well, amazing is an overused word. You don't need all sorts of, you don't need Starbucks all the time, for other people. That's what I feel. But then maybe I'm just going through a good patch. I'll be depressed next week. I'll let you know. But I think, there is something to not being a nature mystic, but to be comfortable and appreciate the natural world. It's amazing. And of course, there are also some very heartwarming kind of things that people send over YouTube regarding nature and animals and so forth. And so, we don't have to always need the excitement of a cheetah, running after and killing a gazelle, but we can watch other kinds of videos too. connected with animals, and the gentleness that they also possess, and their connection with humans. So in that sense, you might say the world is on our side. When we are okay within, then the whole world seems to be our friend. And when we're not feeling good, then of course we feel impoverished, and then everything is somehow not enough, or a threat, or thing like that. Or we need endless cups of tea and coffee, and consumables just to feel, okay. And of course, the arms manufacturers are now feeling very okay. They feel very good right now with the war going on. They won't be feeling impoverished right now. And when the war ends, they will feel impoverished. Oh, what a pity. And how's that? Anyway, there won't be many places to get away to and hide in one's, private utopias, because the whole world is changing very rapidly, and already at 1.5 degrees, almost at 1.5, and it'll certainly go up to 2 or 2.5 before too long, and then many parts of this world will be hell to live in, and people may not even live there anymore. They will crowd into places that are still habitable. So at that point, we're going to have to, we need all the inner resources we can muster just to stay sane, not to get totally upset and fearful and angry. Ham on Rye, yeah, that book I mentioned, Ham on Rye, Charles Bukowski. I'll type Charles Bukowski. Marvelous poet, and a very, very sad and funny autobiography. Yeah. Anything else? I've been invited to lunch by the Kiran Lama at the 80-foot statue, Daijokyo Monastery, but we could still have another 5-6 minutes. I think we had enough, plenty of food for thought. If we intellectualize too much, it may spoil it. Point is to, I think, to ask, what am I doing? And what I'm doing and saying and thinking and absorbing, is it, are they acts of intelligence and kindness, or are they acts of compensation for a sense of lack, or a sense of aggression even towards oneself and the world? That, I don't give up, I'm going to just do what I want. I don't care. I've had enough. That kind of attitude, which I think so many people have. Because we're upset, we are angry, we are frustrated. The world doesn't seem to be offering us anything. And let's face it, if you're unemployed or you're poor, how are you going to feel? It's all very well for me to sit here and, spout all this stuff. But if I was unemployed and poor and living in a kind of a shithole, then how would I feel? I wouldn't want to quote all these wonderful quotes. I would just feel angry at the world. So I guess that's also a reason to develop immeasurable compassion for people who are in a hole right now, and pray that they can get out of that hole, and that circumstances can be kinder to them, and that if we could make someone a little happier by some act of whatever, kindness, short-term or long-term, then we could do that. We should do that. Yeah. And we can do that. Many of us can. We can all do that. Let's dedicate for the Dharma to remain forever, and the authentic guides and teachings to remain, and for us to be connected with them. Going to be beneficial for us, life to life. We may never be separated from the kind teachers and the teachings. Authentic literature, which, as Dalai Lama said in the beginning, authentic literature and one's own intelligence are the guru. And we shouldn't always be chasing after gurus like a dog chasing after meat, is what he said. So our initial guru is our intelligence and authentic literature. So may we never be separated from those two. And of course, if we can find authentic Mahayana guru, then that's extraordinary good fortune. Mahayana guru, Vajrayana guru, and that's very fortunate. So we pray for the long lives of all these great beings, and for them to continue teaching us. This is very important to pray for, that they continue to abide and teach us. Because we really couldn't get anywhere if we just have the books. We need the realized people to bring out the essence of the books. Their example. Okay, thank you so much. Tomorrow's session will be, I hope, given from Tushita, Delhi. Back in Delhi tomorrow. And those who wish, we're planning an all-night, very ambitious, but we should have done it before, all-night Tara session, meaning tomorrow night in Delhi at Tushita from about 10 p.m. we will start doing Tara practice and do it all night the next morning. Until we collapse. Of course, we will take breaks during the night, but we'll basically continue to do Tara practice of one kind or another throughout the night, without waking up all the neighborhood and making them angry, and finish by 5, 6 a.m. because then day after tomorrow is a very holy day in the Tibetan calendar. Culmination of the first 2 weeks of Losar. So that's a full moon in Virgo on Tuesday. So that's very important to do a lot of practice on that day. So after a short break, then we will probably do something again from 10:30 or so at Tushita, 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday. So all night tomorrow night at Tushita, for those who want to join in, coffee and tea and other snacks will obviously be provided. And then, Tuesday we have a morning and an evening session. It's a holy day when the Buddha apparently unusually displayed a lot of miracles to help persuade the mind of some unbelievers at Shravasti, marvelous place Shravasti in UP, where Buddha spent many rainy season retreats. Anyway, so that's coming up next few days. And if you do come for the Tara, then bring some offerings with you. That's also good. And you can tell people about it, and I'll post it today and hope that I don't get cold feet before then, because it's quite tough doing all night, but we will do. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Nita, Rahul,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, Kabirji, for this wonderful teaching
You,
directly
Kabir.
from the heart.
Thank you.
Directly. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Ashwin, Sajid, Jan, Nita,
Thank
Samir,
you.
Rahul, Neeraj, Ajirji, and Nilashi, and our kind friends at Tushita, Nilashi, and Jagriti, and the lady in red. Thank you, and the gentleman almost in the back row, and I think Bob is there in the back row already. Dealing with the refreshment stall, so that's good. So lots of love to all of you. Take care. Yeah, see you, I hope, tomorrow evening. Yeah.